Hey, everybody. Guess what? It's the Santita Jackson Show, and I am back. It's a joy to be with you. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I'm so glad that my family at AM 950 Radio gave me a little bit of space. Many of you know that I lost a lot of weight over the past 20 years, about 240 pounds to be exact. And so I have, yep, Daryl, that's you. That's right. That's right. And so what I've done, I had to step away and really check on myself, and fortunately, my health is great. Taking it a little easier these days, but I've been eager to get back to be with you. I mean, because look at what happens when I go away. I mean, everything just breaks loose. Oh, I love it. Santita Jackson here on the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy, 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 and a privilege, a blessing to be with you today. Please like and share, like and share, like and subscribe. We are on YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So everybody just stop what you're doing. Like and share with somebody. Morning Stars, I'm back. Like and share with somebody. Like and share. Go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page and share, but become my friend there. That's the only place I can accept friendships. Everybody keeps going to Santita Jackson. Don't go there. Go to Santita Jackson and Friends. Please, please, please. Go there, go there, go there. And meet me on X at Santita J, at Santita J. We've got a lot to talk about. Can you believe it is the beginning of July, my birthday month? I love it. And we are just a few weeks out from the Republican convention. And a few more weeks still, we're away from the Democratic convention. And who would have thought we would be here after the debate on Thursday night? Everybody is wondering, where do we go from here? Because, in fact, uh, the president had a really, really difficult debate. And for those of us, whether you support him or not, it was hard to watch, just on a human level, to see someone struggling. I'm personally of the belief that I don't think that you ought to throw the baby out with the bathwater. When people are struggling with their health issues, and not just because I've had some in my own lifetime, but I just think that when you're struggling with your health issues, go on and tell people. They might have some information for you. And you've got to show people not just to how sometimes you have to play hurt. You do. And that's just the way it works. And we have to develop compassion for people as they're struggling. And it was very clear that he was having some difficulties. So much so that in real time, as he came off at the conclusion of the debate, there were calls for him to leave the ticket immediately. The pundits were like, "This is it. Oh my gosh, this is a disaster." And people really do feel that way. And the New York Times came out subsequent to that. They said, "Do the country a favor. We appreciate your service. It's time for you to go." Nick Kristof, Tom Friedman, two of the most esteemed columnists in all of American journalism. And on and on and on it has gone all across the country. So what do you think about this, everybody? What do you think? Should he leave the ticket? Some people are calling for President Trump to leave the ticket, but not for the same reasons. Democrats are saying, you know what, he's not strong enough to carry us across the finish line. And if he looked like this tonight, what is he going to do in another year? 2, 3, 4. So let's talk about this. I mean, what does all of this mean, particularly given that we didn't have a robust primary season? That's what makes this all the more difficult. You have an uncommitted group of Democrats who have done nothing but swell in numbers. So you're dealing with a president who's never been able to come out from underwater in terms of his polling numbers. He's one of the most unpopular presidents in modern history. It hurts to say it because he's done some things that you can't argue that are quite good. But even with that, there's something about him as president that he just hasn't locked in. So now here we are. So what do you say, everybody? I want to hear from you. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Join the chat. My Facebook, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Join the chat and let us know what you're thinking. And I want you to meet me from 6 to 8 every morning. We're going to be going live. The show will be delayed a day, but maybe from 6 to 8, I'll be right there, right there. So everybody, let's talk about what happened with this at this debate. Because at some point, Donald Trump even looked surprised. Like, what do we have here? Because you generally do not let someone who's struggling like that onto a stage.
Right.
You don't do that. Attorney Daryl Jones, my dear beloved, my plus one, who's going to be at the free and equal debates with us. We're very, very excited about that. It's going to be wonderful out in Las Vegas, July 12th, where we will have a real debate. A real debate. They're trying to get Robert Kennedy. They're trying to get Cornel West, but they have Jill Stein and several other people confirmed, people who are on enough ballots in enough states. But this is the kind of debate. It's going to be live, and the candidates will be unencumbered, and they'll be able to engage each other, which is not what happened the other night. But these were rules that the Biden team really set, and they favored them. But it didn't work out that way, everybody, at all. Daryl Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Daryl Jones, excuse me. That's right, put the Esquire in there. Someone we affectionately call Dr. D, brilliant social scientist. Indeed, he's a senior advisor for Cornel West, but he's one of the founders of Operation Push, the National Action Network. His activism goes back 60 years to his high school days. But I'm going to start with you, Dr. Alia Amar. Come on now, the Dolphins, mighty, mighty Dolphins of Whitney Young, the public high school in Chicago. Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. We are
Mighty, mighty Dolphins.
Mighty, mighty Dolphins, although I'm a few years ahead.
That's an oxymoron.
Mighty, mighty Dolphins. That's all right. We're good. We're good. But of course, she's gone on to do so many great things. And she just came back from Dubai. She's been working overseas. Indeed, she is a neuroscientist, a neuropsychologist, is it?
Yes.
Of international renown. And in fact, to fully disclose, when our father was diagnosed with Parkinson's, she reached out. But she and Congressman Jackson have been very close for many, many years. And she said, look, I want to be helpful because I understand this. And I'm in a space in the world where they're doing groundbreaking research. But she's also the bridge between the Palestinian and Arab communities and the Black community. She is an activist who is respected all across the board. And so, and you're no stranger to the show, you're part of the family here. I would never ask a doctor, you, to diagnose anyone. But I must say, Daryl Jones and Dwight McKee, when the debate, within the first few minutes, I got several calls from friends who were doctors because they know I'm in the political space. They said, what is going on here? Can you talk to somebody? This is like watching a train wreck. And they started speaking very technically. And I, had them explain, and they said, no, he is in difficulty. And he might not be in difficulty like this always, but right now he's in crisis. He shouldn't be on this stage. What will we, just generally speaking, just give us a 30,000-foot view, because I know you cannot diagnose him because you're not
exactly.
Doctor, but you do observe. There are things that you observe because there are things that you told us that we needed to look out for with our father, and you've been spot on without knowing the specifics of his case.
Yes. And so, thank you for that, because I will avoid kind of anything that's diagnostic. But in terms of observations, there are a few things that we all saw on that stage. In the beginning, it was extremely difficult for him to initiate motor movements, especially in his face. And so what a lot of people kind of expressed concern about was the facial expression, kind of like his eyes being wider and stiff, and his face not moving very much. You saw a lot of difficulty with articulation of speech. And so being able to form his words was much more difficult in the debate than it was, I would say, maybe 30 minutes after the debate when he went to the Waffle House. and his speech was back. It was also more difficult than it was about 30 minutes into the debate when you began to see some release of those types of motor control symptoms. And another thing that we saw was the changes in the way that he's walking, the kind of stiffened movement, the difficulty initiating hand movements. There was kind of a lot there that I think would have brought your doctor friends to make comments and say, hey, there's reason for concern. I was watching the debate and I was one of the people who was just completely aghast. But I've been aghast. There is no way. And as you know, I worked on your brother's campaign, on Representative Jackson's campaign. And so I know a little bit about the candidates and how you want the candidates to present. And, you know, if there's even something slight, trying to get it off. I used to kind of annoy Representative Jackson by running behind him and going, wait a minute, don't go up there because you got lint here, you know, or you have this. And you're trying to address even the simple things in presentation. So to have someone not address this particular thing properly, because I think there are some neurological conditions, for instance, where the larger concern would be dementia. And that's what you kept hearing in the media. I'm not on board with that fully, because I know that there are also neurological conditions where the symptoms prevent a person from expressing what they can do in terms of their thinking abilities. So what we see doesn't fully match what a person is capable of still cognitively. And when you have dementia, that just doesn't disappear conveniently in 30 minutes. You don't get all your information back in 30 minutes. But there are some disorders and some that are controllable by medication, and those medications have certain windows. So you take your medication, and within a little while, you'll see some symptom alleviation. And then a person is able to function a bit better for a period of time until the medication begins to change again. Now, the brain happens to be a place where not one thing is always happening. Multiple things are happening. So some of the commenters, some of the doctors who've commented publicly have talked about the president's history of cerebral aneurysms and his treatment for cerebral aneurysms. And so as we age, all of us have things that are happening to our brains. None of us are immune to that. But the way in which this came out at such a moment publicly was very, very disastrous for the campaign.
Was this stress induced, or is this just a cycle?
You know, it's challenging to say, because if you're going on a stage and you know you've got a lot going on, and goodness knows that President Biden in particular has a lot going on because he's leader of the free world. And there are ongoing crises in the Middle East. There is the devastation that's happening in Gaza, and he has been rightfully taken to task for his role in that. There are domestic issues, and he's up against an opponent in this debate who is typically, on a good day, rather unhinged. And so I think that when we say, well, could this be stressful? Perhaps for me and you, or for him, it was Thursday, you know, that because he has been doing his job every single day, despite whatever is happening for him in terms of his health. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt did the same thing. So I think that we can't always throw the baby out with the bathwater, but that they should have begun explaining to the nation a little more clearly what was happening, because America is full of compassionate people.
Well, you know, because my issue with the Biden case has always been Attorney Daryl Jones and Dwight McKinney, Dr. Amar. I said, look, it's clear he's got an issue. Okay, say it, and then you put that behind you. Stop trying. You're stigmatizing him. But I say, oh no, you don't see what you see. Yeah, I know what I see.
Mm-hmm.
I know cognitively he has some issues. He's got issues, and it's not because my father has Parkinson's, and I know other people who have these neurological issues, and I get it. It's just stop. You see it, say it, and we can open up the conversation because so many other people are dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, but as my father called people from my hospital room when I had weight loss surgery,
Mm-hmm.
because what I had was a surgery that is the platinum standard.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to do, we're trying to work now. It's the best surgery for Black and brown people, but we don't have access to it because it's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, wait a minute. My father said, you have an obligation to talk about this because this can save some people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just, now Dwight, people are calling for him to be kicked off the ticket. And I think it's a pylon because he was already struggling with his popularity and his policies. Some of them are popular, some of them are not. And this Gaza has just taken off. So what do you make of all of this, Dwight?
Well, a couple of things. One is, I think there's two concerns here. One is short range, other one is long range. One is that, was he having a bad day? Uh, Based on this, you all kind of articulated stress and circumstances and the situation. But the bigger question is he having a bad life? And the debate just expose that bad life, that this is long range. If it's long range, the implications are more than just him winning the election and him winning, the campaign. The implications is, if he does win, then how does he govern? Is he governing a country with military assets and nuclear assets? Is he governing that country with a disability and does not really understand all of the consequences of his decisions? And so I think that fear is at two levels. One is the fear of, can he win? Is he coherent enough to win and beat Trump and keep Trump out of office? But the other is, if he does win, is he capable of governing the free world? Or does he put everybody at risk because they have not dealt with the reality that he is in cognitive degeneration? So, and that's probably a deeper fear for many people. And I think that's one of the reasons they're saying he probably should get out the race. Not just because they think he can't win, but because they think he can win and then has the inability to govern the country.
Do you think he's going to stay in, Dwight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for a couple of reasons. One is his own megalomania. He spent his whole life wanting to be the president. And he has run for the presidency 3 or 4 times and lost, but still was not dissuaded to stop running. Secondly, there's the fear of who is behind him on the ticket. There's not a lot of confidence in many circles for Kamala to be able to take his place. And thirdly, I think that his crowd and his wife, his family, has a need for him to be there. I think she is as preoccupied and luxuriates more in being the first lady as he does in being the president. And so I think that's the unspoken part of the story. And his crowd is dependent upon him being president for their own substance and stability. And so they're going to, that old guard, Hillary and Obama and those who profit by access to the White House are not going to dissuade him from dropping out. And thirdly, I think that if he does give up, is going to create such chaos in the party and at the convention that the Democratic Party will not be able to survive the backlash. Because once you figure out who's going to take his place, once already divided constituency become more divided, once you begin to create these enemies who are at best right now strategic allies, but when the stakes are there, where you got to choose between these politicians that you are loyal to, who will now seem to be disloyal to him, I think it's going to create such chaos and such animosity. It will be very hard for the Democratic Convention to survive that.
Daryl Jones, your impressions about Thursday, and just will he leave will he vacate the ticket, or do you think that he should?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to vacate the ticket. I don't see that happening. I've said all along, I've said it previously, I've said it, and I'll say it again. If you want to beat the champion, beat the champion. Right now, he's the champion. No one beat the champion during the primary, so you're not going to beat the champion now and ask him to step aside. I think that if we got to a point where he ended up stepping aside, I think that creates more chaos than it does any type of resolution. Because if the nominee is not Kamala Harris at that point, Black community, Black women are going to go crazy. This should be that person. And you put in Gavin Newsom, let's just to throw a name out. No. That will create more chaos, more problems than it would cure. In addition, something like that would have to happen at the convention, which means that all the voters that cast their vote for President Biden are now being silenced with regards to who's being selected to lead the party. So, for all of those reasons, I don't see him stepping aside. I see that as just too great of an issue. I agree with both Dwight and Dr. Amar that he had a bad day on this debate, and there may or may not be cognitive issues that are going on. But along with that, you add in that with President Biden, you have a person who's known to have gaffes anyway, right? You have a person who who just wasn't popular from being elected. So it's not like he's coming with a whole lot of popularity. It's not like he's coming with a lot of room to be able to commit errors, because people, didn't particularly care for him anyway. He was a compromised candidate, and now he comes in with the gaffes. He comes in with the stuttering. He comes in with this blank look periodically. That's going to be the cause for all the concern that's there. Does it mean that they don't stay with him? No, it doesn't mean that. The best line that he has came not from that debate, but from something he said previously, and that is, don't compare him to the Almighty, compare him to the alternative. That's what will save the party and save him, I think, in this election, is that the Republicans have such a bad candidate that they've put up there that, that the independents, which will make the determination in this election, are not going to move in that direction. Yeah. So, when I look at the whole debate performance, the first 30, 40 minutes were horrible, I think, as Dr. Amar was laying out. Beyond that, it came together for him. Beyond that, he was the Joe Biden that many people don't like, but many people expected to see, in terms of having many of the complete thoughts and things along those lines. I look for the party at this point. If I were advising President Biden, I would now be pushing policy pieces. I would be talking about one of the big things, big misses that I think that happened from the debate, was when they were asked a question about the addiction, the Americans that are addicted at this point in time. They asked former President Trump, what would he do? He went into some rambling about immigration and migration, nothing about the families with people that are suffering from addiction, as President Biden has a son that's suffering with addiction. So I would look for those policy pieces to be brought out, and more substantive things, and calling former President Trump a liar every time the name comes up. that this convicted felon, that this liar, if you couldn't believe him in court, you couldn't believe him when he had Trump University. You couldn't believe him when what he did to the woman. He's a liar. So you wouldn't be able to believe what he's saying when he's delivering messages to the country. So the debate was bad. The first 30, 40 minutes were bad. But beyond that, I think that now they turn and they try to salvage what they can from that debate, and to turn the corner with regards to the discussion for the rest of this election.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Amar,
mm-hmm.
and because the thing is, we all saw this together, right? Mm-hmm. Is it unwise? Do you think he has the stamina to withstand a campaign?
I agree very much with a lot of what Attorney Jones was just saying in terms of looking at the alternative. Frankly, the alternative is the loss of our democracy. There's no doubt about that. Donald Trump has said that on day one, he intends to be a dictator. And I don't think that most Americans, because we haven't suffered through that, as a young empire, we haven't quite experienced that. And so people don't know how devastating it would be to have someone take away the essence of law when we are a society of law. And on top of that, he intends to be a vengeful dictator. And I don't know how much that weighs in.
But we've experienced that before. I mean, with J. Edgar Hoover,
mm-hmm.
LBJ. I mean, that none of that is new, and democracy is something we've worked toward. I'm wondering, because I struggle with that, because everybody said we're trying to save democracy. I'm like, I'm a Black American. What are you talking about?
I think what we're talking about is the difference between hard and impossible. Well, so it's been hard for us to fight back.
No. I guess what I'm saying something else, because the system, the deeper you get into it, you see just how complex this system is. Mm-hmm. It is so complex that one person cannot take it apart. It just, the way the system is built. This system it has
redundancies.
It's not just redundancies. You have two major parties that fight for the same thing, the oligarchs. They have two different cultural mm-hmm. appeals, but you can't move. It's very hard to move this system the way that it's been constructed.
I think we saw that during the first Trump term, mm-hmm. because we all kind of said, oh, he says these things, but, he wouldn't really be able to do them. The only reason, in my opinion, mm-hmm. that he wasn't able to do them was that even the people who supported him underestimated how far he was willing to go. And so he wasn't surrounded by people who wanted to completely destroy the society and knew how to do it. Now, this time around, if he's elected, those people have volunteered. The Supreme Court is loaded. You have members of Congress who, I don't know what you would have to do at this point now to convince them that something is wrong if he says it's right. It's a very Orwellian constituency and support that he's built. What he says is reality. And there are people who this time would undermine every system they can. They are already attempting to undermine the voting structures. The legislature is compromised. The Supreme Court is compromised. So he has a different starting point this time. And,
but you know what? I think it's like we're on another republic. And Americans are loath to say that. I mean, France is on its fifth republic. America's on at least its third, I would say. The second republic was after the Civil War.
Yeah.
And when you broke the back of apartheid in America, that was another republic. I mean, this is, when the country turns over.
Right.
And it's almost as if Dr. Amar, Dwight P. and and Attorney Jones, we're at that inflection point again, where you see a turning, because it's almost as if Trump is the leader of the opposition. But you have to, physics tells you that you got to have an equal and opposite reaction.
Mhm.
I mean, to offset. And I'm just wondering if, and maybe people are wondering if Biden is strong enough to do that. I mean, I don't, I'm just.
Do we need Biden to be
trying
strong enough to do that fully, though? Because one of the protections that we do have within our society is that we have the protection of succession. So, for instance, President Harris only served, I believe, for 11 days. He died of pneumonia slightly after being elected. That didn't destroy America. A president dying right after he got elected didn't destroy America. We've had other deaths of presidents, didn't destroy America, because we have successors. So although it might be very frightening to some people within the country that Kamala Harris could eventually wind up stepping into this role, that is exactly what our democracy has in place as a protection. We don't even know who Trump would have in place. But for a 34 count convicted felonist and rapist, I think we know who he is and how long we would have to deal with him to be the
But wait a
president.
minute. Was he convicted of rape or was it sexual assault? And if so, as a lawyer, please help me know what the difference is, because I hear this debated.
You're asking the attorney.
I'm asking you, Daryl.
Yeah, no, they're two very different things, because when we call someone a convicted rapist, we're talking about a criminal proceeding and a criminal standard that would be met. That is not what happened with former President Trump. What has happened with former President Trump is that there was a civil proceeding that was brought against him. And it's a whole different standard that's used for the quantum of weight and evidence that's needed for a conviction. So it's a civil standard.
The only reason I did that was because I want to put a fine point on it, because I want us to be responsible. Just as I asked you before we came on air, Dr. Amar, how do you want to handle this? Because, doctors, you all are very, very precise. And you said, no, I'm not treating him. So I cannot. I said, okay, I'm going to give you the space because I need you to define the parameters. Dwight?
But all of that is inconsequential. The issue is, will they vote him in office? If he becomes a president as part of a legitimate democratic process, and the people put him there, then that's who they want, and they have a right to want him. And so after we get through philosophizing about, the nature of his reign, the fact of the matter is he was placed there by enough Americans who wanted him there because one way or another they share his belief. And so he is not as much of the issue as the 52% of the population that support him, that wants him there for their own purposes. And so unless we address that, then he's going to have full reign to do whatever he wants to do. Because he's just one guy. Unless they cooperate with that, and they probably will, it's almost academic, the rest of this discussion. So the reason people are so challenged by Biden is because, and that's really to me should be the question, is whether or not he can round up enough people to support him that would offset the people that support Trump. The problem with Biden is not just his age and his mannerisms, it's his policy. If he were to make the adjustments on his policy that will expand the party, if he would take a different position on Israel to bring the young people back in, to bring the electoral balance back in pocket in Michigan and Wisconsin, then, he had a chance to win. He just wants it both ways. They want to maintain these policies of destruction and controversy that has divided the party, and also think that they can therefore win with a polarity that when you look at the poll numbers, just do not exist with those same policies. And that's what the Democratic Party is not addressing.
Yeah, and I think the White is 100% on point with that. That, you know, I think that part of the political analysis that goes into the Biden's camp is that they're thinking that there's no real difference between Biden and Trump when it comes to Israel and to Gaza, and because there's no real difference, they can stay on the policy, on the position that they've taken. I think that their fear, though, and what they're missing, what I fear that they're missing, though, is this with former President Trump, right? Is that former President Trump, his first time through, and I think it was Dr. Amar was talking about, you know, the lack of policies that and whatever that he had during former President Trump's first term or his term. But what's changed this time is that, you know, both Trump and Biden would be missing on the Israel as well as the Gaza influence, as well as Ukraine, right? Because if Ukraine that's thrown in that mix as well, with the millions and millions of dollars that are going there. But in addition to that, former President Trump has now ascribed to what they're calling Project 2025, right? Which means that now he's coming in with an agenda. You know, it's not going to be just, you know, oh, I'm here, let me try to figure it all out. They're already assembling the team, you know, and Project 2025 is going to be their playbook, their blueprint. They know who they want to hire. They know the departments they want to take down. They'll have all of that's in place. And because they have that structure that they're already putting in place, although there may be some Republicans that don't care for Trump, they realize that the policy position now is in place. And so I'm willing to support that policy platform. And it's the same policy platform on the other side of the aisle that I think Dwight is talking to, with people saying that they support the policy platform of Biden. So that's what I think that the whole new landscape of this is really coming down to, is understanding what policy they can put in place. Because it's not going to be about Biden. It's not going to be about Trump. Right now, it's going to be about the policies that they put in place. And I'm very concerned with regards to what it may mean for the Senate as well as the House of Representatives.
Yes.
Well, I mean, but until my question then is, but what are the Democrats doing to counter that? Because it's almost as if I cannot believe they're getting caught flat-footed, because these people are putting out there, at least they're telling us where they're going. I don't see the Democrats with that same, I mean, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. My father says it all the time. They have, I mean, as soon as we got affirmative action, they put in motion the plan, and they said it might take 50 years, and it did. But we're gonna unplug this. Roe v. Wade. It might take 50 years, it might take a century, but we're going to unplug this. And you saw Jerry Falwell set up Liberty University. So he could train lawyers a particular way. You saw the Federalist Society. I mean, they don't recruit you in law school. They get you early. And so, I mean, these people, there's a plan here. And I'm just wondering what we're doing. You know, I mean, what else is being done? I mean, Dwight, because it seems that when I see Steve Bannon, you know, when I see this whole group that former President Trump has worked with, they have something in mind, and it goes beyond something. It's not just personal for President Trump. I mean, because these people want a constitutional convention, and while I want some amendments to the convention, to the Constitution. There's no question about it. But I'm just wondering where they're going and where we ought to be going, Dwight.
Well, it's because the Democratic Party is as comatose as Biden is. If she's going to do an examination, she should do an examination on the party. They have no strategy.
Pardon me, Dr. Amar, I'm sorry.
Wait
a minute, let me go boop. Let me remove him from the stage. Oh, okay, so what did you just say? What, Dwight?
They are as comatose as he is. They have no strategy, no long-range strategy to win. Their strategy is they think that that they can, just by persuasions of fear, create a counter dynamic to another party that has a strategy and real short and long range goals for where they're going. Your strategy for success can't be we ain't them. It's got to be, here is our plan. Here is our long range strategy. Here's where we're trying to take the country. And to now, they don't, that I've seen, they don't have that. And so they are not losing in a vacuum. They're losing for real legitimate reasons. When you look at where the numbers are and look at where the interest of the country is in immigration, in inflation, in these endless wars, and your position on that is, oh, we'll just keep doing what we're doing and wait for the people to understand, but they'll vote for us, vote for me and I'll set you free. That don't fly, particularly with thinking people. And so you're going to see 200,000 people outside who are not there because of his cognitive issues. They're going to be outside based on policy issues, demonstrating. So you'll have one chaos on the inside, trying to figure out if he's the right candidate, and chaos on the outside, saying that even if he is the right candidate, he has the wrong positions. And so unless there's some adjustment, some compromise, Trump is going to skate into the White House and is going to be justified in his position of retribution, because it was a strategic mistake, I think, to use the Justice Department to try to take him out of the race and to not give him the people the opportunity to choose. They could have all of these trials after the campaign was over, after he lost, and legitimately say that they gave him a chance to win. But by trying to upload all of these assaults on his business, on his character, on his family, they gave him the justification to come after them with impunity. And that's why I said, two things when we first went into this. One is, don't turn a monster into a martyr. But secondly, that when you try to kill Godzilla, if you don't kill him with them electric wires, all you're going to do is make him stronger. And so he went from being a monster, Godzilla did, to just a monster, to once you put that electricity in him, to a monster that could breathe fire.
Can I challenge your chronology, though, on something? So I hear what you're saying about when, the timing of kind of prosecuting on all of the many, many, many things that Trump has been accused of. But if a person never stops being a candidate, for how long should we put justice on hold? Because, in part, he never stopped being a candidate, so that the argument could be placed forth that you can't prosecute him because the president has certain protections around whether or not he can be prosecuted. But at the same time, from January 6th straight forward, he never took himself off the stage. And I'm no great defender of the Biden administration. I have a lot that I disagree with them on. But I also feel like there's been a lot that's been done, particularly on the domestic front, that was necessary. The pandemic control was absolutely essential. We went from a president who said inject bleach and take ivermectin to
ivermectin does work, and so does hydrochloroquine.
So let me continue this one though. But from that to a president that said, let's roll out this vaccine control. Let's get this disease under control. Let's get these kids back in school. We were diving. The economy was in a tailspin, as was the global economy, because of the pandemic. And America is doing better than all Western countries at this point. The Biden administration has a real problem with how they push their message. They didn't remain in campaign mode at the same time that they were governing. And so the message of what they've done hasn't permeated to most of the American people. Trump never stopped campaigning, and his message permeated. And I think that accounts for some of these differences.
Well, also the media. When the media wants to silence you and make you irrelevant, they stop mentioning you.
Mm-hmm.
They never did that with him.
Yeah.
And you have to ask why the corporate structure was so keen on keeping him alive. This is not him. He doesn't have the power to put himself on TV. He was an employee of NBC. He's the first presidential candidate that I've ever seen in my life who didn't have to go into the studio. He would call into the Today Show. He would. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I said he has nothing but wind at his back. So there's and the system. I learned so much when Reverend ran for president. It's a closed system, y'all. And you are not getting in unless you're in the club. And I don't mean 50 Cent. You're in the club. I mean, that's how the system is. I mean, Reverend became a real threat when he won Michigan in a 6 or 7 man field by 56%. Then he had to come and see the powers that be. They saw that he wasn't willing to compromise, and then suddenly the machines in Wisconsin stopped working. Because we were on a roll. He had become the legitimate front runner. Then Oregon stopped working. And we said, oh, okay. So they shut everything down on us. Got it. So I think we also can't be naive. See, Reverend says my father says we've been in slavery. We were in slavery longer than we've been free. And we also don't understand the true nature of power and how it works and really how this system works. This system is so complex. My mother was sharing with me not just a couple of days ago. She said, because she worked for Dr. King, she didn't just march with him. She and my dad worked for him. She said when Dr. King came out of, when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, and you remember this so well, Dwight, he was untouchable. But then he took a turn toward dealing with poverty and the military industrial complex. She said he couldn't buy time to get on TV. And the government shut him down and the government took him out. That's why when we talk about government harassment and all this stuff, I'm like, we've lived through that. No one has been more, not no one. I mean, and these folks take you out. They do. That's why I'm trying to figure out what gives. I got 3 minutes left.
And I'll be very quickly. One is on your other issue. They should have let him have lost the election and then come after him, and they will come after him. Yeah. But on the other issue is that the whole process is a non-democratic process. And so it is really more about power than it is about democracy. And we're naive to that. We believe the hype that this is really, that these Democrats are more democratic in principle than the Republicans are. They better hope that when the Supreme Court do this hearing on immunity, they better hope the Supreme Court gives immunity to these presidents. Because if they don't, all of them are going to be vulnerable. All of them are war criminals. Everybody in my lifetime, every president I've seen in my lifetime is a war criminal. That's inflicted assassination and havoc on nations for economic reasons. And they've had, all you have to do is read the story about the hitman, the analysis of a hitman.
Oh,
to see
John
what.
Perkins and the
Yeah,
economic hitman. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Is that to understand? So all of these guys, if the Supreme Court comes out tomorrow and says that they're liable for their criminal actions, they all will run the risk of being arrested by some other countries.
Mhm.
Well, I maybe just being honest about who. Maybe this is a reckoning, Dr. Amar.
Mhm.
I mean, and Attorney Jones and Dr. D. Dwight McKee. Um, Maybe we're really being faced with who we really are, and we got to deal with that. I mean, because there is corruption in the system. There absolutely is. I remember an HBO documentary more than 20 years ago where this, and I've not seen it since. I think it was called Hacking Democracy or something like that. Do you remember that, Daryl? When this woman, she said the system, the machines are corrupted. And
Mhm.
she was not coming from a partisan place at all. You could feel that she was pure.
Mhm.
And she put in Daryl Jones' name and Santita's came out. And that's how they closed the documentary. And she felt she was despondent. She
Mhm.
just wept. She said, "Do you mean to tell me the system is this broken
Mhm.
and we don't know it?" And I'm hoping that we can step back and really cast your party aside and really agree upon the common good.
Mhm.
You're going to have your views about whatever,
Mhm.
but there's a common good. We can't shred the social contract we're shredding.
Yeah.
Right.
A floor beneath which people should not be able to fall. Um, Corporations, you can make your money, but you don't have to make all the money, and you're not supposed to cause inflation. That's what you're doing, and the media, corporate media, lying to us.
Mhm.
These people able to jack up all these prices. People can't eat. I mean, come on.
Emphasizing your point on
I,
corporate
I,
media, I
I
think
got,
that's the
I
place
got
that
10
has to be there.
seconds.
Okay. Corporate media has to change.
Well, we have to support independent media, and I'm not saying just because I am it, but we got to do that
Mhm.
because we have other mechanisms. That's why these kids, they're not even watching corporate media.
Mhm.
And these demonstrators, they refuse to talk to corporate media. How
Mhm.
about that? We saw that. Attorney Daryl Jones, sending all my love to you. Uh, he's had a very dear friend who made his transition. He's with the angels and he's watching over you. And Dr. Alia Amar, see you in the next hour. Dwight McKee, I hope to see you there too. Dedicating the show today to my Uncle Chris, who made his transition to yesterday. And I love you, Uncle Chris. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you with all of my heart. See you in the next hour on the Santita Jackson.